does he do? He might go all the way. He gives it a ride. It's a chance. It'll be a goal. Music, buddy. He rolls through. He can. Cometh the moment. Cometh the champion.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Swans Blog, Swans Cast. Tonight, I'm joined by Stephen Park from the Facebook group Road to Glory. Stephen, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Justin, and yourself?
Very well, thank you. And I'm also joined by the leaping hero of Melbourne Football Club, Russell Robertson. Russell, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Now, how have you been since football retirement? Have you been keeping yourself busy?
I have, yeah. I've been working at the same football club ever since I left. Well, not really, ever since I sort of had a couple of years there where I played football, relaxed, did some music, did some coaching, did some TV stuff, did some, what else? God, music really. I get into the music side of things a fair bit these days. So, look, I really, I've been quite eclectic with what I've done. I even did a theatre show in the city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the Athenaeum Theatre. I did the thing called Barassi, which was a stage show about the life and times of Ron Barassi. So, look, I've had a ball of a time, to be honest.
Will there be any sort of albums in the future or any more sort of solo acts?
Look, I did that. I did It Takes Two, remember, with Kate Sobrano, who was my duo partner.
Yeah.
And, Universal approached me and said, I'd love you to do this album. Just do some great rock and roll songs, old school rock and roll songs, typical of the songs you were doing on the show. Would you like to put your voice to it? We'll pay you a heap of money. And I said, well,
nice.
say no to that. So
yeah.
I went in the studio with who's become one of my best mates now, great mates, Phil Sobrano, Kate's brother. And we put this album together, and it was just an absolute ball. So, yeah. Don't try and find it because it was my first ever go at singing, and ever since then, to be honest, guys, I've been on the circuit really, just
nice,
learning the art and sitting in pubs and clubs, and now I just do corporate music.
And Robbo, I actually have a copy of your album at home.
Is it a tea coaster? You use it to hold your cup of coffee?
No, I don't do that, but I actually, the day it was released, I went out and bought a copy of it, I must admit.
Oh,
I just wanted to see if it was any good.
No, look, it was terrible. Terrible, but, we had a good go of it. We had some fun. The musos that did it were fantastic. I don't regret it. I love the experience. But if I could just have another go, I'd love it. Redo it. But, I just, look, guys, I played piano when I was a young kid. Growing up in Tasmania, my old man said to me, you're going to learn how to play a musical instrument because when you can no longer play football anymore, you can still wow them with some music. Once I got over here to Melbourne, had a bit of time on my hands, I bought a guitar, taught myself how to do that, and now every weekend I'll play a wedding, a function here, maybe might be at the casino, Palladium, whatever. So I'm very, very lucky. Really am lucky.
So is that why you're the basically the Melbourne Football Club's MC as well, Robbo?
Yeah, I'm a one-stop shop, guys. I say to kids all the time, don't give up on anything. A lot of people say, you just got to stick to footy, and footy players don't do any of that sort of bollocks carrying on stage. That's just a load, You've got to enjoy life, give everything a go. Like I said, I did a stage show for crying out loud. It was awesome fun. At least I can say I did it,
Well, football only lasts for 15, 20 years anyway,
That's
if
right.
you're lucky to last that long.
Absolutely. So, you might as well you need to learn to do something else that's going to occupy your mind. And, a lot of guys study and do all of that. I didn't do that. I probably should actually go and get a degree or something like that, but no, haven't got one.
Now, so you're still involved with the club in a marketing capacity.
I am.
What's that like in a day-to-day basis? Do you sort of spruik up the club to everyone you can, or are you
Yeah.
sort of responsible for the online presence and whatnot?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In a nutshell, I because I am a sort of trusted voice and a lot of supporters that know who I am, we find it works really well to have a past player. And a couple of clubs do it, not the only one. Richmond do it, I think with Flea Waitman. They have these past players get involved and go along to functions like sponsor functions. It could be even just taking a few supporters through our training facility, making them feel involved with the football club. And it really does work quite well. So, look, I'm very lucky. I'm there at the MCG every day, sit at my desk, and when I'm needed, out I go and I do my things. Even on game day, I'm out there on the ground doing the to the big screen, sort of.
Oh, yeah, I've seen you. Yep.
Yeah,
I see you every now and again. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Probably about the Swans games that you would have seen me do that. So,
Yep.
yeah.
I bet you wouldn't have been too happy a couple of weeks ago, though.
Yeah, no, it was a damn shame. But we're building. I'm really surprised by the Swans this year. I think everyone's been surprised. It's a good little story, actually. This season's just had so much drama from every club, really. Everyone's had their little bit, and Sydney's had their. I mean, I don't think any Sydney supporter would remember a start like that. It was pretty poor, and they've turned it on to become probably one of the better sides, but stumbled last week against the Hawks. Bit of a nemesis there, the Hawks. Real rivalry.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the teams that play that style, unfortunately for them, they're not going to play finals, so you never know what could happen.
Yeah,
Actually, they could play finals.
Hawthorn.
Well,
Yeah, there's still a possibility. Yes, mathematically possible.
I think everyone's mathematically possible, except for Britain.
Yeah,
Collingwood's mathematically possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
So, Robbo, how did it feel to travel back down to Tasmania or did you go down for the game Melbourne versus North, and how did it feel to be back down there?
It was great to be back in a home state. It was a real, it was a great time for me coming up. I grew up on the northwest coast of Tasmania, Burnie, a little town between Burnie and Devonport called Penguin. And we, I had 3 sisters, mum, dad, lived in a very quiet existence, and it was a great upbringing. But then you get this opportunity to go and play AFL football, and to do that, you need to play with this statewide team, the Tassie Mariners. And so I got a phone call to say you need to move to Hobart, or else this is not going to happen. And you're going to play in this team, and you're going to be flying over to Melbourne every week to play against these Victorian boys. Hobart is a beautiful town. It really is. And I had an absolute ball. I was 17 years of age, hanging out with all my mates. There was a lot more girls down in Hobart, which made it a lot more fun for me. I'm not going to lie. It was a nice little precursor to coming over to Melbourne, which was really an eye-opener. If you ever get a chance to go to Hobart, but don't go if you're going to watch Melbourne play down there, because obviously we don't like playing down there.
No, that's 2 years in a row, I think.
Yeah, last year was pretty close. Last year was that shootout where I think it was, 120 to 130?
Yeah, that's right.
An absolute ball terror of a game.
And it was the Goldie versus Gorn show. That was something else.
Oh, yeah, no,
well, it was
absolutely brilliant.
This time round, it was Counter the Wind, I think, on the weekend. It was a very interesting game.
It was. Look, there was a 5-goal breeze, which probably made it just all the more frustrating for all the Melbourne supporters. We just weren't able to find our way into the forward line, and really probably all they needed to do, the players, was just pop the ball up in the air, and the ball would have carried that far. So
that's right.
Very disappointing. But we've just got to regroup now. That's the only thing we can do is regroup, get back out there, and hope that they can beat GWS. Because look, the drama is here. I said anything can happen.
That's exactly right.
Got a quick one for you, Russell.
Yep.
Have Melbourne come back to take up a one-time coaching capacity to teach the players how to take speckies and spectacular marks?
Yeah. No, because you know what? Melbourne have always had, not always had, but seem to find these players that just know how to take hangers. Jeremy Howe obviously was another one that came and went over to Collingwood. So yeah, look, we've always found someone, but no, I've never been asked to do any coaching. Never been asked to coach. I think that's probably because the game is so defensive now, and boys, you remember when I played football, I don't think I laid a tackle in 13 years. So
No.
yeah, not sure I'm going to get a knock on the door anytime soon.
Not only that, you didn't have that many defenders to play against at times either.
Well, that's right. We had 6 guys down, 6 forwards, or five forwards and 6 defenders, and that was as bad as it ever got. And we didn't have to run down into the defence. And I think if I ever did that, I would have got a little bit dizzy. So I was lucky. I look at poor Jesse Hogan now, and it's not his fault. It's not Melbourne Football Club's fault. It's just the way football's gone. And it may change and evolve and go back to the way it was again. That's how fast this game is, just evolving and changing. But I see him up on the half-back flank 1 second, he's over on the wing, and then another second, then he's back into the forward line. And if I have one more person say to me, why do players miss goals these days? I mean, use your brain, people. Just please use your brain. They're tired.
They're totally gassed.
They're just absolutely gassed. Tony Lockett had only moved 10 metres in a game. And he was having a shot. He just had all this energy,
That was a fast 10 metres, though. He was about as fast as they got over that space.
Oh, lightning! Oh God,
and he was
one of the best players
unit.
of our time, Tony Lockett. There's only one plugger.
He was an athletic freak considering his size. So
yeah, look, and his ability to body was another thing. Also, we can't forget that. Yes, he was a big boy, but he could mark the ball low to the ground. He could pick it up, handball it off. His ability to read the flight of the ball. I think Jesse Hogan's got a bit of that. I think Jonathan Patton's got a bit of that. Well, not a bit, a lot of it. And I played with a guy, David Neitz, who was just absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah, Neitz, yeah.
Neitz was just so powerful, so strong, and able to just throw people away at the right times. And that's what made him good. So, yeah.
So, Robbo, what do you actually think of today's football? Do you think it's as good as when you played, or not as good?
Well, if I'm watching the game on the weekend, I think it's a great game, and I think to myself, what will we like? And then I'll put a video on, or I'll see a bit of footage on TV. Like, for instance, they keep showing this Melbourne playing down in Geelong, and I think it was about 05 or 06 or something like that, not even earlier, 04. When we beat Geelong for the first time since 87. And I'd kicked 7 goals that day, so it was lucky for me. I played a ripper. And people kept messaging me, Robbo, you're on TV, get on to Fox Footy and watch yourself. And I'm like, we're already watching it, don't worry. I watched that game, and it was fun.
Got it on DVD?
Yeah. Yeah, I sent it to everyone. Look, I watched that game, and it was fast, it was quick, it was defensive. You were talking 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, my last few years, it just really started to get to that point. And to be honest with you, I did, in the end, become outmoded, outdated. I was sort of part of that past era where you could kick to a contest, and I was looking for it because I was taught to jump for the ball into a contest. And there was no contests anymore unless you're playing on the half-back flank where you can sort of read the ball coming in. For me, those contests in the forward line were gone. So, yeah, it was a bit frustrating towards the end. Probably when I started in 97 and 98, it was that game was so different. Crying out loud, we were training at 5 o'clock at night. 4 o'clock at night we'd start training. It wasn't full time then. Everyone was working during the day. And then Neil Danaher took over in 2008. And he wanted to become professional. And around about 98, 99, 2000, it really started to become what we see today.
That's not that long ago when you think about it. That's a little over 15 years ago that the sport has changed so much.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and I mean, contracts wise, think about that for a second. I mean, the average player, I don't know what the average player, I think it's something like $200,000 now, isn't it? Well, I'd love to.
Three.
Yep.
300? Yeah. I think
340, I think
Yep.
it was.
a first-year player back when I first started was $20,000, and you'd be lucky to get $1,000 per game, which is nothing. Of course, the cost of living wasn't as big back then, and we could get by, but that's not a lot of money. And we were doing weights at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning in the pre-season, be done by 9 o'clock, so that everyone who had a job could go to work, do what they've got to do, and then you did have to be back ready to go for 4 o'clock start of training, train till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. So that doesn't happen now. Everyone gets, the boys at Melbourne, they get to Amy Park at 7:30 in the morning, ready for an 8 o'clock sort of start and the get-go, and they're out of there by 2 o'clock most days. So it's a full-time job now, and they are on big money.
So, Robbo, back when you were playing, back in the early days, did you have to watch all the videotapes of the games from other clubs that you were going to play against and things like that, like they do in today's football?
Oh, yeah, but it was VHS. We were watching videotapes, the real videotapes, and it was cut up by somebody and dubbed or whatever, and oh, God, it was probably painful. It wasn't as easy, like the coding that they do now. They just press a button that's chucked into into a separate thing, chuck it on a stick, and away you go. You go to a separate room, and look, the way they do it now is we used to sit 40 people in a room, and we'd watch the video, and the coach would tell us everything, and we'd go through all the clips of the team that we're about to play. Probably not as extensively, but we sure did that. And Neil Danaher, he was from the Kevin Sheedy School of Thought, which was to overload with information on the board and tell you what to do, and that's just the way it was, and we knew no different. Now what they do is it's small information groups, so they don't do the big 40-plus in a room where you can hide in the corner and fall asleep and not be a part of it. These boys are given homework. They've got to come to training ready for the first meeting in the morning and contribute in groups of 10, smaller classrooms, so that you learn. It's all about development these days. You develop your players by teaching them, by getting through to them. And yes, smaller classrooms these days, boys. That's what they do, and I think it's really, really great. Back then we were falling asleep up in the back row.
Yeah.
Did you still get those coacher sprays on the Monday? Someone's made a big blunder on the weekend, and did the coach ever sort of pull you aside and unload, or do it a bit publicly, or was it like a pat on the back and let's move on, let's try not to do that again?
Yeah. Well, there's a massive generational difference between me as a 38-year-old to a possibly someone that's retiring now as a 32-year-old. What they'd be getting now, and they probably only got a touch of it at the start of their career, was they'd have the coaches, absolutely tearing strips and going purple-faced, crazy, calling you all the names under the sun to get the best out of you. That doesn't happen anymore, and that's probably not any fault of the young kids. It's just the way the world is, the way technology is now. It's changed us, and the way we respond to facilitation. So coaches, I think, and I only see it with Simon Goodwin because he's the one that's there, and I saw it with Paul Roos, the great Paul Roos, who we all love and you guys love. He was I don't know about a cuddler. He's from the old school, but he started this new vogue way of being a mate of the players and really trying to know about them and know what's best, what they do, how they respond best, and that sort of. And his wife Tammy, who's an absolute legend, she was probably the left field thinking, the Zen, the meditation, and all that sort of stuff. She brought that in as well, and everyone's doing that sort of stuff now. So I see Simon Goodwin definitely being a mate of all the players. Lukey Beveridge, a mate of all the Bulldogs. They famously just love him as a bloke, as a mate, and they played for him in the end. So that's how you have to do it. You can't fire and brimstone Ron Baratheon anymore.
You can't get away with that in society as a whole anymore, so that's why you can't get away with it in the public eye.
Yeah, this autonomy, this one-person dictatorship, it does not work. You have the 18-year-old telling the 32-year-old on the list that he's not pulling his weight. That's how they want to structure it up. They want everyone to be leaders. So the 360-degree feedback that is just part and parcel of. I mean, it's part of the fabric of football now. It is sit there and tell someone. For me, imagine me sitting down telling Gary Lyon that he wasn't doing good enough and he's pathetic at the moment. He needs to lift the game. He would have stood up and punched me in the face. I would have expected it. But no, these days it's expected that. Oh, Noah Clayton Oliver comes in and he's got to be able to tell Nathan Jones that I don't think you're working hard enough, and Nathan Jones has to accept that and take it for what it is and not fire up. So then that's what they do, and that's okay. That's good. That's the way the world is now. Like you say, the kids are different.
Yeah, I still remember, I think it was round 5 when Callum Mills pulled all the Swans players in together and actually gave them all a talking to.
Yeah,
so
the coaches
same
would have
thing.
loved that. They would have loved to see a young fella taking that responsibility. Jack Viney did it for us guys over here in Melbourne. Pulled these blokes aside and said, "Not good enough." And that's great leadership. It shows great fortitude. It's hard. It ain't easy to stand up in front of all these older guys and your mates and tell them what you think. As a young bloke, you just want to sort of fly under the radar. But everyone's got their strong points. Everyone's got their different leadership styles, but what they really are trying to do is to get everyone speaking, talking, and there is no autonomy. There is no one person that is greater than the other person, even coaches.
It's a really good insight. So, what was it like doing the Barassi musical, which I actually saw too, by the way?
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant fun. I mean, you're in the city, you're hanging out with all these actors. It was a great life. Theatre life is just magnificent. There's not much to worry about. You get a show in the night during the week on a Wednesday and on a Sunday. You're doing a show during the day and the night. It's performing. It's up on stage. It's scary. Oh God, I was scared. Of course, running out on a stage and doing all this acting, and they call it vaudeville, which is really going over the top in theatre. It's not like acting in a movie. A completely different thing, going over the top. And as a footballer, you're told to, tuck yourself in, tuck your heart in. You don't be carrying on like that and getting in front of everyone and thinking that you're better than everybody else. And I found it very strange indeed, but I loved it all the same. It was just so much fun. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people that did go and see it, they loved it. They thought, oh, great, there's some theatre that they can actually watch, which was football.
Yes, it was actually a brilliant show, I must admit. Comparing it to football, what was better and what was worse? And I know there's no comparison, but...
Yeah, so, I mean, no comparison. I played footy on the MCG. I've done things like I've sung Grease Lightning with Olivia Newton-John at the MCG one night. Oh, God, that was just one of the great moments of my life. I was Johnny Travolta for a minute. It was brilliant. I've played in the grand final. I've done the acting thing, as we said. I've, what else? Danced at this closing ceremony of the Commonwealth Games with Brendan Favola. We were ballerinas out there. It was absolutely brilliant. I've done a lot of things. And now I play in bands. I'm up there with these bloody rock stars rocking it out. And it's safe to say that I'm a footballer. At heart, I love my football, and I still flick the reruns on of old games and just love it, just like you guys do. So, yeah, but I'm glad that I've done those other things as well. Yeah.
So, going back to the football then, who was your greatest ever opponent?
Yeah, good question. The guy that I really didn't like playing on the most was a guy by the name of James Clement, who was a Collingwood player, Freehoby at the start. Yeah, went to Collingwood, won a couple of Copeland trophies. He was just absolutely sensational. You wouldn't have thought it because, I mean, he was fast, strong, smart, uber intelligent, really intelligent. So he was just so hard to play on. And I mean, this guy played on the halfback flank and he won 2 Copeland trophies. How do you do that? So, yeah, I used to hate playing on him because you knew it was going to be a tough day at the office. There's a couple others, Harry O, as he was known back then, Heretier Lumumba in the end. He was very tough. Just held on to you couldn't stand playing on him. He was really, really strong. And Dale Morris in the end, one of those guys that he didn't bother too much about getting the ball. He was about stopping you, and I hated that.
Right, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so what were some of your greatest football moments that you can recall, whether about you or when you've been on the field and seen some?
Yeah. Oh, look, two moments stand out straight away. The first was a preliminary final to get into the grand final in 2000. We were playing North Melbourne that night. And the great thing about a preliminary final as opposed to a grand final is that everybody in the crowd is a supporter of the two teams that are playing. At a grand final, it's corporates, and a lot of people couldn't give a rat's who wins. They're just there for the experience. So, I remember late in the last quarter, North Melbourne had come to an end of a run of just success through the 90s on the back of Wayne Carey and all those guns that they had. They were sort of getting a little bit older, and we were coming up. We were this young team full of young kids who had just a little bit of spunk about us. This game toed and froed all night, and we got ourselves 2 goals up, I think, with a couple of minutes to go. And really all we needed to do was kick a goal and it was all over. And North Melbourne, they needed to kick a goal to make us really nervous and, the chance to win it. So I remember being in the forward line. I'm 19 years of age. I'm standing in the forward line. I was playing on a younger player as well. And the ball was up in our back line, their forward line, and they were menacing. We won the ball out, and the ball came streaming down the wing. And I didn't know, do I lead here or do I lead back into the forward 50? I sort of dummy led forward and hoped that they kicked it over my head, and they did that. So me and my man, we're racing for the ball, and we're heading towards the Great Southern Stand. You can imagine the Great Southern Stand, punt road end, pocket, or half-forward flank. I picked the ball up probably about 20 metres from the boundary line and ducked at that very moment. And my man flew over the top of me. I stood up and I looked down the ground and I could see 34 blokes staring at me. Like, they weren't running at me because they knew they were too far away to do anything. And I looked toward the goals and there was no one between me and the goals. All I had to do was stroll in and kick a goal. So I turned, sized them up and put it straight through the middle. And I turned to the Great Southern Stand as it erupted to this raucous noise. And I'll never forget it to this day, just staring up to the Great Southern Stand to probably 50,000 people, screaming at me and screaming back to them, we're going to a grand final, baby. It's just one of those moments in my life I'll never, ever forget, because we all want to play in a grand final. We all want to get that one day in September, and I got there, and that was the moment right there, and I was a big part of it, and I just felt like a rock star. I was 19, Yeah, Carl and Tapey, we went to the grand final. It was another great experience, and we lost to a rampaging Essendon team. There was a lot of moments all the way through. I played for Australia, and we won games. To be honest with you, fellas, if you ask any AFL footballer what was the greatest moments, the ones that didn't win grand finals, obviously you'd say, winning a grand final was amazing. A lot of them will say there were great wins along the way where your backs were against the wall, you had a lot of injuries, and you came out on top against a really good side. They're great moments. So North Melbourne, they would have loved beating Melbourne on the weekend. Don't discount that. They would be going back to Melbourne just going, how good was that? That was amazing. We did something hard together, and we came out on top. That's what life's all about, because we're meant to struggle. As humans, we're supposed to battle, and to come through a battle and come through hard times together with a group of people is an amazing feeling, and that's why I always will always remember those great wins when we, probably playing a great West Coast Eagles side in 1998, undermanned, probably had 10 of our best out, and we got over the top of these Goliaths who didn't have a single injury, and that was probably another win that I remember.
That's really good. I'd actually compare the side that you actually lost the grand final in, that Melbourne side, to the Western Bulldogs of last year, to be honest. Very similar, very young, up-and-coming side.
Yeah, wing and a prayer stuff. We were hoping for the best. We had 3 shots on goal, I think, very early in that game in the grand final. And we needed to kick everything. We needed to kick that. Everything had to be perfect for us to win. Unfortunately, we kicked a couple of points, and Essendon just were able to go bang, bang, and kick the goals and stay ahead. And they just knew they had us on toast. But we thought we'd get back there. 92, 94, 2004, 2002, 2005, 6. We were real chances to break the drought for Melbourne. But unfortunately, we failed towards the end of the season. But I will say that we didn't have the club set up back then. We did not have a setup for success back then. We were one of the poorest clubs training out of a pathetic junction oval. Everyone else was ahead of the curve in terms of the sports science and the facility, and we were terrible. So we've fixed that now. We've got this amazing facility, Amy. We've got money in the bank. We've got a great bunch of coaches. Every player at this football club, the Melbourne Football Club, has no excuse now. There is so much development going on. So well done to Peter Jackson, who's our CEO, to sort that out. And well done has to go to Paul Roos. I mean, we can't go slapping each other on the back just yet because we haven't even played a finals game yet. But you must admit the differential this year, the wins and losses percentage is so much better for Melbourne. We haven't been thrashed. And how many times have you seen Melbourne thrashed over the last 10 years? So well done to those guys.
Yeah, good point.
And just on Paul Roos, because you would have heard some of the radio work that he does on the weekends, especially the pre-game radio work. And he's got like this segment on Triple M where it's Roos' story time or something like that, and he's telling a story about his coaching or playing career. About maybe a month ago, a bit more than a month ago, he told a story about when he first went to Melbourne, and he was shocked at the state of the Melbourne Football Club. And he went to do a training session, and he said I think it was only like 10 or 12 players turned up to the training session. They had a lot of injuries. And then they went through a training drill, and he was shocked just by where the skills were and what the players were doing and things like that, and just the state of what the club was. So from your own perspective, from playing to now being, I guess, an official of Melbourne, what's the transformation like, and how much has Paul Roos and other particular characters and individuals driven that change?
Standards at the Melbourne Football Club were probably terrible. It's been said by you and Roosie, and it's on record by everyone, that Peter Jackson came into the football club and was like, what's going on here? We just lost our way after a few bad luck things like Jimmy dying, Daly, the tanking furor, all those sorts of things. You can't blame any one person, but Melbourne Football Club were rudderless for a long time. The football club, people that were working at the club were trying to fix the place, but it was a massive behemoth that required some real interference from big people like the AFL and Peter Jackson. And look, the AFL never did anything to help us. We did it all ourselves. The AFL were obviously very interested in fixing the problem, so that everyone was helping everyone. Even other AFL clubs were trying to help us get back to where we needed to be. And lucky for us, Peter Jackson was brought in, had a look around, and he, the same, decided that there's not a lot of good processes going on around here. It takes a long time. It really does take a long time to get this sorted out. And I think what the short answer is, you need good practices, good culture, good people. And we brought in some really good people who knew what good culture looked like and what good practice looks like. And they started instituting that sort of stuff. And remember Roosie saying things, there's a lot of players here that are scarred by the past, and we need to really, really work hard with these people or start again. So it was always going to take a while, and we're starting to see, the turn of the curve now. So we've got Brendan McCartney in there as a coach's coach. You've got Simon Goodwin with this bevy of great assistant coaches. Further from that, you've got a board and an administration under Peter Jackson that know how to get this done. And slowly they're getting it done. And that's why Peter Jackson's probably stayed on a little bit longer than he first anticipated. He realised this is going to take a while. And he's here till the end of next year.
That's really good. It's great to see that the Melbourne Football Club has actually turned it around. And you can see it in the players themselves. From a perfect example is Jack Watts, who's actually become a really, really good footballer and has taken on the club culture.
Yeah, Wattsy just needed to be supported. Wattsy needed someone to understand him, someone to see what he, required to play his best football rather than demand it, I suppose. And there's a number of things. Watsy was never going to be the saviour, the instant fix. Watsy was always going to play well in a good team. So it was just a matter of time for him, and we've seen that over the last couple of years. The team started to perform better. He's performing better. He can do what he does, his craft, better in a good team with good people around him that understand him. And that's the same could be said for a lot of our players, to be honest. But Watsy so polarising because he's this big, tall, good-looking bloke who was number one draft pick. So he cops it. He absolutely cops it, the poor bugger. And to be honest, he's one of the greatest.
Do you think that maybe there was a bit of Nick Riewoldt about that? How Nick Riewoldt and the other St Kilda fellow, Justin Kaczynski, they were so good that when they hit the scene, they were amazing. And then you also had Chris Judd, Luke Hodge, Gary Ablett, Cousins. Do you think that there was a bit of Jack Watsy's number one? He looks good. He looks athletic. He looks tall. Like he could be a key forward. He's going to be the next best thing.
Yeah, look at Nick Natanui going to West Coast Eagles. As this other great player. Should we have gone with him? Should we have gone with Watsy? I think we've got it right. I think everyone's going now, I see now. God, he's a good player. He is a tremendous footballer and one of the best users in the AFL. I mean, it's probably a stretch, but if you watch him on a game day, he is, when things are going well, he's absolutely brilliant and he just becomes an important cog and a very vital cog in our team. We're starting to put a really nice team together, fellas. There's some great guys in there. Clayton Oliver's going to win a Brownlow, and if he doesn't, I'll go he. You've got Big Gorney, who's still young in the ruck. You've got Jaden Hunt. I mean, the list goes on with our boys at the moment. It's just a matter of time.
So that brings me to probably my last question around football. The rumour mill is always an interesting one, and this is probably a question, Rollo, you're going to say no comment to. But the rumour going around is that Zach Jones may be going to the Melbourne Football Club next year, and the possibility that Jared McVeigh may be going to the Melbourne Football Club as a 1-year player, 2-year assistant coach. Do you know anything about this, and are you able to comment? And what's your speculation?
I would definitely be able to comment on that, but I know nothing about it. You guys are more on the pulse than I am, so people should tune in and listen to you more often.
Yes.
Jared McVeigh, I think, is an interesting one. You look at Jordan Lewis, and some of the older guys, Daniel Cross, who we got across from the Bulldogs. They are so important, fellas. They really are, because that's that whole processes thing that I was talking about. They bring in successful processes and successful organisations. That's what you need. It's the same in business. It's just got a different picture and a paint on it. It's football. You're bringing people across that have been a part of success. And what did you do at the Sydney Swans to make you guys so successful? I'm going to make these players love you by playing next to you. You just teach them. And that'd be brilliant to have him. And then to have Zach Jones as a carbon sort of copy of his older brother. So out goes one, in comes the other. That would be quite good, wouldn't it? A 3-time Preston Ferris winner, Nathan Jones from Melbourne Football Club. A little chunky man. He's done so well for us. Now, I don't know how long he's got to go. He probably could play for another 5 years. I don't know. But, one would say he's probably at the other end of his career now. And Zach, well, he's probably just getting to the start, isn't he?
He is. He certainly is.
How do you boys?
Yeah, well, I don't think... personally, Zach Jones is a good player, and he's going to be a good player, and he could be someone that could stay with us and could go. So I'm not really that concerned about Zach Jones, but I'd be devastated if Jared McVeigh went and played for someone else, the whole one club player. But if it happened, then and it's for the best interest of him, then I say good luck to him. I don't think it's worked for Sam Mitchell, though, with West Coast.
No.
So that's something that has to be weighed up as well. Is he going to be as good at another club as what he was at the previous club? And
probably
you look
at, but it hasn't worked for the West Coast Eagles. It's worked for Mitchell because he gets the coaching role, doesn't he? So it's the West Coast Eagles that have probably been a little bit hurt by that. We've been okay with Jordan Lewis. I think Jordan's been fantastic for us this year, and he's taught blokes behind the scenes as well. Jared
Yep.
McVeigh, I would love to have him. Sorry, mate. I'd love to have him in our football club. But yeah, do you know what? I agree with you wholeheartedly about that one club player, because I was a one club player and I'm so proud and glad that I did that and didn't go, because I had a couple of opportunities to go elsewhere towards the end of my career. So I'm very, very pleased I stayed.
Yeah, but I can imagine some Swans fans would be actually devastated if he did leave, and probably even for Zach Jones to go. But my tip is that he's actually probably going to leave, because by this stage it's very unusual that players stay if they haven't committed by almost the end of the season.
That's true. Yeah, when they start saying this, we're going to wait and hold off, my management group and I'm going to hold off to the end of the season, that's when you start going, I think he's going.
Yeah, that's right.
History's taught us as well. Gary Ablett, Chris Judd. It's so many players have done it before. So
Yeah,
I don't want to see anyone
Buddy
leave.
Franklin.
Yeah, there's only one person that I want to see leave and go anywhere is in the entire AFL. Is I want to see Gary Ablett Jr. go back to the Cats for a couple of years. I would love to see that. He's been in the wilderness up there in the Gold Coast Suns. I don't think they need him anymore. I think the Gold Coast Suns need to concentrate on other areas. Gary Ablett back in the homeland. Oh my God, it'd be the return of the prodigal son. It would be something quite special, I would have thought.
Yeah, I agree with you totally there.
So I've got one question from Stinger on Big Footy. He's a Melbourne supporter.
Yep.
Are you still best mates with Woden?
Yep. I was best man at his wedding, he was best man at mine. Terrific fella. One of the hardest workers that I'd ever seen coming into the AFL system. Got the best out of his ability. Gave his heart and soul to the Melbourne Football Club. You know, he was probably ahead of the curve with that professionalism that just becomes part and parcel of football now. You know, weighing his food. You know, everything that he did had a process to it and a plan. He outsourced. He looked for the better ways to do things. Unfortunately, it sort of didn't work for him. The game sort of passed him by, and that he was a bit slower towards the end of his career, playing in the midfield, same height as me, needed to be a bit taller, needed to have a couple of special things, and just sort of didn't work out in the end. But terrific guy.
Well, the next one is from Rowan from the Swans Blog. What was your favourite hanger?
Yeah, I think my favourite hanger was probably the West Coast Eagles at Etihad Stadium in the pre-season. Played a pre-season game there, and I remember this mark. I'm sure you'll find it on YouTube somewhere if you look hard enough. I remember going to this mark and thinking to myself as I took off, the ball was a big floating one out of the middle of the ground up to the sort of the centre bounce. It was coming in really high, and I jumped so early, and I thought to myself, oh, you idiot, you've gone way too early here. Coach is going to drag you. The fans are just going to think you're an idiot. Well, hang on a second. I'm still getting the hover here. I'm still up in the air because I got this beautiful sit on top of Brad Miller and his opponent. And
Nice.
Lucky for me, I stayed up there, took the mark, and the best thing, boys, came down, landed on my head, and it didn't hurt. So that's what you want to see. Don't land on your feet. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Now, did you win the car from that mark?
No, because it was a pre-season game, so it didn't count.
You got, Robbo, you got drafted because of a mark you took on the footy show. Was that you? No,
Yeah,
that wasn't
was
you,
me.
was it? That was you, yeah.
Yeah. I was probably a long shot at best to get drafted. Before that, one of my mates sent in these two marks that I'd taken for the Tassie Mariners that year, and those two were something that I never ever bested. They were some pretty amazing. Even I got to say, I don't know how the hell I did that. These two marks were pretty specky, and I ended up winning the footy show, Almost Footy Legends, and came third with the other one. And that's when Melbourne sent down someone to talk to me, and the rest is history.
Yep. And if our listeners want to check out those, you can find those marks on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I was
yes.
a young, skinny kid.
Yeah. So speaking of marks, I've got one extra question, Justin. I'm just going to throw in here. Who's a better mark, you or Jeremy Howe?
Oh, Jeremy Howe by far. I mean, he's majestic with the way he goes about it. I mean, his art form is taking marks. For me, I mean, he's a lot taller than me too. He's 6'3", 6'4", and just a natural spring. And for that matter, Brett Burton, I think, was one of the greatest taking a hanger as well. I obviously love watching guys do that. Sean Smith probably, I would have thought he'd have been right up there near number one as one of the best hanger takers. These are the guys that do it consistently. I'm not talking about someone that sort of every now and then took a really big mark, one big mark. Guys that always did it. I always took a hanger, guys. And look, you know what? It wasn't massive. I'd do one a game. It was up off the shoulders or it was up off the hips or whatever it was. It was me just trying to get near the ball. I just needed to get near the ball so I could kick a goal because I was so short. So, and you watch, I usually took it on my chest because it was safer and I just wanted the mark. So, yeah, Jeremy Howe, mate.
Yeah, he's definitely. So, the other question to that, is there any chance you want to go up to the Swans and teach Buddy how to take a mark?
Oh, God, yeah. Look, when you can tap the ball to the side and then run onto it and run on a big arc and kick a goal like he can, why do you need to mark it?
Yeah, that's a point.
Yeah.
The next question comes from Belden on Facebook. If the ladder stands as it does now at the end of the season, which teams do you see falling off in the first week?
Oh, so that's a good question. I think the top four, obviously, if you've got GWS and Richmond and Adelaide, those guys in there, they're going to stick around for a little bit longer. But the ones that I don't think will stick around, West Coast Eagles, I don't think will stick around. I don't think they've got enough tricks. I think you've got to look at game plans and you've got to look about how they go about their business and does it stack up to finals football. I just don't necessarily think the West Coast Eagles will be able to travel and do that. Who else have we got in there on the bottom four at the moment? Essendon, are they still in there or did they drop out?
They've dropped out.
Yeah.
You've got Melbourne and Port Adelaide and Sydney.
I think, look, I'm sorry to say, I think Port Adelaide will probably be more of a chance to stick around in Sydney purely for that standard of football and the football you've got to play. I think they're probably getting a little bit found out of late Sydney, and people are studying them now. I'm not going to comment on Melbourne because I might lose my job. I really hope for the best for my team because we deserve it. But we've got to really get that consistency going and that excitement going again and stop worrying and just throw it all up into the, want of a better term, into the wind and hope for the best because our fans have been starved of finals football for a long time and now we're right there and they've really got a massive opportunity, but I think the Melbourne Football Club are on a journey and over the next 4 or 5 years we are going to be regular finals performers. So that's enough on Melbourne. Sydney have been, you got to say, they've been, in the history of AFL football, VFL football, there's been no more consistent time of any team than those guys over the last 15 years. It's been phenomenal. Consistently in finals football, grand finals, wonderful. Whether they can stick around in this year's stuff, not so sure. And I'm not so sure on Port Adelaide either. We got them over. So it's all how you perform on the MCG, but those top four look pretty solid, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I'd say is a concern is GWS. I just don't think they have a really good game plan. I think they've got the skills, but I watched the Hawthorn GWS game in Tassie, and I saw GWS play Sydney, and I'm just worried that the game plan that they actually have, they base it on them beating their opponents, and if they get found out, they just struggle.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely true. If someone's having a down day or not performing well, they do, don't they? They rely on everyone playing well. I mean, all you got to do is sort of target specific players with GWS, take them out of the game, really disrupt them because they're young. They don't have other ways in which they can go. So, it's the teams that have got lots of tricks. That was the thing about the Bulldogs last year. They had so many tricks, and people just didn't know what the hell they were doing. They couldn't figure them out. They were able to adapt to anything. I mean, that game up in the gold against GWS, was it the prelim?
That was the prelim.
That was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. They just were able to find their way out of anything. And You know, I don't know about the Bulldogs this year. Too many injuries for them.
Mm-hmm.
Adelaide look like they're coming back into some great form. The Tigers, don't forget, let's not discount the Tigers. They just might do something special this year.
They can also still finish ninth as well.
Yeah, yes. Well said. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so great as a non-Richmond supporter to see them just falter and finish ninth.
Yes, it would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Microwaving their memberships.
Yeah. You can ask.
Yes.
All right, so the last question comes from Joshua on Facebook. How do you get a team to stop bombing it in long?
Yeah.
Now, he's a Swan supporter, so I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Bombing the ball in long is panic. It's I think you'll find teams that are worried and don't. They haven't been drilled enough about how to go forward into their forward 50. I don't know. They just don't have enough processes around it. Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? We weren't able to connect into our forward line on the weekend. It was terribly, terribly frustrating. It's probably one of the most frustrating parts of the game if your ball constantly just gets rebounded out of your forward 50 and bombing it long to seemingly no one. If you're bombing it long to seemingly no one, something's wrong. Something's panicking you. Something's making your midfielders make these wrong decisions, and you've got to have a good hard look at that. And that is lowering the eyes. That's taking the time. That's identifying better options. So that's what I mean by having different tricks, and I'm a bit worried about Sydney's game plan in that, you know, they really do look for Buddy. And if you can get Buddy out of position, if you can get Buddy running away from where he's comfortable, getting him doing something that he doesn't want to do, then you've got a real big chance, because what else can you, is Tippett, you know, is it, you know, Reid, who's going to mark your ball? Who are you kicking it to? You know, you need to lower your eyes, because that's been the great stalwart of Sydney over the years, is that it had multiple goal kickers. You've had guys that will run through the 50, through the paint, as I like to say, and jar you a goal just as you need it. But this year it feels like not looking for those different goal kickers, like a Heaney will kick a goal, or Jack will go forward and kick a goal. This year it seems to be all about Buddy. I don't know.
Well, back in 2012, I think it was Reid was the leading goal kicker with like 25 or 28 goals for the season. Every game they'd have anywhere from 8, 9 goal kickers up to 13, 14 different goal kickers. And it's a really good point you raise about how you go into the forward line, because in the first quarter there was a couple of very good examples of that, where the players received handballs on the outside and then they just went, go long. You can hear the players just yell, go long. And then they just whip it without even looking. And what happens? You've got 3 Hawk players that roll back by themselves.
Well, if you're playing football a certain way on the half back line, you still should be able to play that way on the half forward line. So you shouldn't be changing anything. If you can make your way through and take the game on and get through the 50-metre line and have a look at the goals, you should do that. You shouldn't be panicking yourself just because you're getting closer to the goals and thinking, well, quick, let's just kick it long and hope the forwards can do what they're supposed to do. You're supposed to. You really do need to identify what's going on. You need to look up and go, okay, it's a slow play, it's a fast play. I've got an option here. Buddy's been double teamed, so I'm not going to kick it there. I'm going to kick it to the guy that's obviously got no one on them because he's been double teamed. Or let's handball it through this mess, and let one of Callum Mills kick the goal. You know, that's how it should be. So, the good thing about for Sydney is, and I know I'm sort of being a little bit negative about Sydney, probably too much, is there's a long way to go. There's still 4 games to get. You know, that's a long time to get your game going and get some momentum going into finals football.
And they've got the post-season bye as well. And if they make it through that first round, they've still got potentially up to another 3 games to go.
That's right, exactly. There's still a long way to go, and there's a lot of drama still to unfold. Don't worry about that.
That's right. And just to clarify, Robbo, I don't think you're being negative at all, because I totally agree with everything you've said. The kicking efficiency for a team that's sitting in the top 8, they are 17th in kicking efficiency.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
No, it's not. It's not good enough. That's right. I agree.
You love bringing that topic up every single time. Now, do you have any more questions, mate?
Yeah, I've got one more, Robbo. I've
Yep.
got one more, and it's got nothing to do with football. So,
Yep.
obviously, I follow you on a couple of different avenues. I won't say what they are because I don't want people to start following you. But
Yep.
you're actually looking a lot fitter now, and you post some very good photos than what you did in your football days. What's the secret?
Yeah, look, I discovered a cleansing program that I really got stuck into, and I love it. It's I wish that I did it when I played football, and even my ex-teammates see me now and they go, Robbo, what the hell you're fitter now, like you just said. Imagine if you'd done this when you were playing football and you were this committed, you might have been better for us. And I said, yeah, I don't know about that, but I really love now taking control of my destiny by looking after my nutrition. I don't train, I don't work out. I'll probably do 1 or 2 sessions at best a week, and those sessions are very light. But I eat well, I eat right, I don't drink too much. I avoid all the sugars, and I'll take 1 day a week where I don't have any food at all, and allow my body to heal and recover. So I really enjoy doing that now. It gives me a bit of focus, something else to do. So thank you for noticing, and if anyone wants to look me up, they can. No worries about that at all. I'm honestly happy to help people find health.
Excellent. Well, I might have to question you more about that because I think that's great, and the transformation has been amazing, I must say.
Thanks, mate. No worries. Hit me up.
Yeah. So, what is your prediction for the year, Robbo? Who do you think will win it, and why?
Well, let's go with the Brownlow first. I think Dusty Martin's going to take it home because he's, obviously Dangerfield will go close. But Dusty Martin has been, in some of those games early on in the season, he was just so dominant. I reckon he probably racked up around about 15 votes, 6 or 7 games in. And all he's got to do is pick up another 15 with the next 20 or whatever it is, next 18, and he'll be okay.
Yep.
I think the premiership is going to be between either a Richmond or an Adelaide. Adelaide, they've just got to settle themselves and get through. And all they've got to do is, I think, just, stay consistent and they'll be okay. And they'll probably win the big dance, which is, look, and to say that, I think I only really can just sort of say that maybe Adelaide. There's no one saying, it's Hawthorn by far. And it's been like that for the last 10 bloody years or so. This year, anybody can win it. And I don't know what's going on with football from week to week. It is so strange to me. And it's probably a wonderful thing. So maybe Adelaide, maybe GWS, maybe not. I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know that there is a way in finals football to play. And that is fast, aggressive, defensive. So if you've got those 3 things ticking, and if you've got an amazing defence, you're going to go a long way into September. And if you've got, and even into October, and if you've got some really good players, like a Geelong, I mean, we haven't talked enough about Geelong, probably. Geelong could absolutely win it. And they've got Dangerfield, who's getting a bit sore, and they've got Selwood, who, again, is probably getting a bit sore on the head. He keeps getting hit in the head.
He had that epic hit from Otten, what was it, about 6 weeks ago?
That's right, in the temple. So, those guys could go all the way as well. So, just watch this space. It's anybody's game.
Yeah. Well, my tip is Adelaide Geelong Grand Final. I've said that from the beginning of the year, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yep. No, that's a good bet.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so you're right about Dusty winning because Patrick Dangerfield has been rubbed out. What was your opinion of the tackle, and should he have been rubbed out?
See, I didn't.
Or are you able to hear it?
I didn't watch the news, so I wasn't aware. So yeah, look, I thought that he was in trouble. He didn't think he was. He was quite shocked that he was even sighted.
Yeah.
So unfortunate for him, but I really don't think he's going to win it anyway.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Be careful. These tackles, I mean, to finish up on that, these tackles, you just got to be so careful to not. It doesn't matter whether you got the ball or not. You can't be driving the head into the turf. Just got to, just be a little bit more mindful.
It's such a fine line these days. You go back 15, 20 years and that would have just been a good tackle play on. And it's an accident.
Yes, absolutely. In my day, you could jump up in the air and you can shoulder someone, get them in the head, and that's just bad luck. But now you get 10 weeks for that. So
Well, there was that Geelong player who did it till Savani. What's his name?
Yeah, Milburn, Dasher.
Yes, that one particular spiteful game against Carlton where he got Savani and he got Bradley as well.
Yeah,
And he only got like 1 or 2 weeks, and he would be suspended for almost a year if he did that these days.
And he had to get a police escort out of the place as well because the Carlton fans were ropeable. And that was their
The
favourite
locals, they were a lynching mob then, but
One thing we haven't talked about, speaking of suspensions, the bug incident that happened in the Sydney game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that? And I'd probably touchy subject for you being Melbourne, but
Yeah.
what's your opinion on it? And should he have got as long as what he did?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And even he'll say that. We'll all say that. He just got it wrong. We don't hate him for it. He's a good kid. He's asked to play on the edge. These players are asked to play on the edge every day of aggressive, hard football. And, being a young guy, sometimes you're fired up. You want to impress the coach. You want to play on the edge. Someone's pushing and shoving you. And he did cop an elbow just before it into the body. That's nothing. That's okay. But it would have got him, and he just would have thought, I'm going to get you back. And he reacted, and his reaction was to throw a fist that copped him right on the end of the chin. There you go. You're going to have a 6-week rest, and that's disrupted his whole season now. But, yeah, look, we've all said it, and we'll say it on record again. We do not accept, performances like that from anybody. It's a bad look. It drives parents to tell it's going to stop parents sending their kids to play football, that sort of stuff. So we just can't have it.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the Dermot Brereton era, is it?
No,
well, they used to do that frequently.
Men weren't harder back then. We just didn't have as much awareness around the effects of getting hit in the head. I mean, 20 years before that, it was still okay to smoke. No one knew it was bad to smoke. Our knowledge of head trauma these days and the effects, the damages and the sicknesses and the illnesses later on in life was just a duty of care to look after the head. So unfortunately for Patrick Dangerfield, because his head's been, not tampered with, but affected in this tackle, not too bad. It wasn't a bad one, was it? Because he sort of got up. But
yeah, he got up and that was just went off. That was it.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why it's a touchy subject, and he's got these weeks.
Yeah. Well, Cruiser ended up with didn't finish the game. He had concussion. So.
Yeah. Duty of care. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's right.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Russell. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Good on you guys. No worries. I wish the Sydney Swans all the best. I mean, I do wish you all the best, but I think you've had enough of it, and you can bugger off on that Melbourne.
Oh, no. We want more success. We're used to this. We can't deal with not winning.
Good on you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Only trouble with our success is we keep falling at the last hurdle.
Yeah,
we don't want that anymore, obviously.
We just like to get to the finals. But anyway, thanks for having me, boys, and I'll look forward to hearing from you in the future.
It's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. All right, Steve, now it's time to do our heroes and villains of the week. Now, would you like to kick us off with your villain of the week?
My villain of the week, yes, I will. It is the match review panel. Yes, I am sick and tired of the inconsistency that they continue to throw up every single week. I cannot believe how people like Trent Cotchin, Dustin Martin get away with stuff, and then Dangerfield.
Yeah, every week.
Yeah,
every week it's a jumper punch, like a punch to the guts. No one knows how he gets off.
That's right. And then Dangerfield gets rubbed out, and I know Russell Robinson said he thought he deserved it, but I personally don't think he did, because he was in a tackle and they've both fallen forward. If he hadn't have hit his head, he would have got off. Because he hit his head, he didn't. I compare these two to the Isaac Heaney tackles over the last 2 weeks. if Isaac Heaney
Yes,
continues
yes.
to do this, he will be rubbed out. It's only going to take one person hitting their head, and he will be rubbed out. So
He'll get 2 to 3 weeks for him, easy.
that's exactly right, and that's what worries me, in that we are making our game softer. Like, I can understand the match review panel doing their job when someone hits someone or someone deliberately bumps someone in the head. But when it is a genuine tackle that is part of our game, and then we are then penalising these people for tackling, it'll end up being touch football.
Yeah, look, I saw the incident on replay. I didn't see it live, but I saw the replay, and he drove him forward, but even Cruiser sort of just rolled over and got up, and I thought, oh, okay. And then you hear the fact that he's off for the game, concussed, and it's just like, wow, okay, then should he go for that tackle? Not really, but he's going to go because of the AFL's position on any kind of concussion or a head injury or anything like that. That it's just sacrosanct. You cannot concuss people.
Yeah.
You go back 5 years, Basher Hooley, would he get 4 weeks? No, he'd get 1 week. 5 years ago, he would have got 1 week, 2 at worst. So it's just, look, it's I agree.
Yep.
MRP needs a bit of a whack, but I thought it was even worse when you hear people like Jimmy Bartell's off for the week, so they have to put it down to 2 people or rope someone else in to do the adjudication. And you know, the MRP was introduced to try and take some of the load off the tribunal.
Yep.
I don't think it's done that.
No.
I don't think it's done that at all.
I agree with you there. I think it's actually made it worse.
Yeah, the whole grading system just doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's applied subjectively, not objectively. If it was applied objectively, it would work. With ex-footballers on the panel, there's too much subjectivity to it. But that's just my point of view.
Yep.
Now, I have a villain, and I know you're going to agree with this one.
Yep.
It is Buddy Franklin's boots.
Oh, yes. Yes, I agree.
I don't even care what brand he's wearing. What on earth was happening in that first half? I do not know. Now, I was at the ground, and he took that first shot, and it was just like, okay. Yeah, he does one of them every now and again. And then he did the second one on the run.
Yep.
And you could hear the entire bay just groaning, and you hear, what the hell is he doing? It was just how he played that first half. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was his worst half of football his entire career, hands down. And arguably his career worst performance on the night.
It was a shocker, wasn't it? It was a really, really poor effort from Buddy. And, like, I know I've said over the previous weeks about his kicking and how his goal-to-point ratio isn't great, but he just had a shocker. He just had a real shocker that game.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of people who have said that he's a bit out of form, maybe he should have been dropped and whatnot. I don't agree with that. I don't think he should be dropped. I just think that it's a bit symptomatic of the team itself at the moment that there is some issue with goal kicking. And as Russell Robertson's pointed out, maybe it's because of fitness. Maybe they're just too tired when they take the shots. I don't know, like some of the shots they're missing, they're directly out in front, 20 metres. They can't be missing those shots, and they're missing them. Yeah, Callum Sinclair, perfect example, took the first mark of the game, another contested mark. 30 metres out directly in front, hit the post.
George Hewitt in the third quarter, I think it was, he did the same thing.
Hit the post. Hit the post, directly out in front. So it's just the Swans at the moment have a massive goal kicking issue, and I think Franklin's kind of leading the charge in that. But now, on a lighter note, do you have a hero of the week?
I do. And it's only happened today, and this is going to be a lot of people's hero of the week, I think. But Nick Riewoldt, and the way he actually handled the press conference today, I don't know whether you heard it or not, but it was very, very well done. And I just thought the way that he and the Saints have handled it, and to be honest, I think he's actually wanted to play on, and the Saints have said that they weren't going to give him a contract, but they've done it the right way. Unlike the Brent Harvey one last year, where he wanted to play on and the North weren't going to give him a contract.
Yeah, and then he kind of kicked up a fuss and a stink about it too.
Yeah, that's right. I think this has just been handled beautifully by him and then by the club as well. And I hope if it ends up being that it happens with, say, Jared McVeigh, like Ryan O'Keefe a couple of years ago. If it happens and Jared McVeigh does retire or wants to go and play somewhere else, he does get this club support.
Yeah, I agree. And look, he's been a great player for our club, and I'd definitely be okay with him moving on if he wanted to do that. But yeah, Nick Rewalt, he's been a superb player for St Kilda. He's led them every single game. He's been an icon, a massive role model for the club, especially early in the 2000s. He was the image of St Kilda. He was St Kilda. So my hat's off to him. Fantastic career. Unfortunately, he didn't get the ultimate success, but he played in a couple of grand finals, so he can be pretty proud of his career.
5, wasn't it? I think
Now,
5 grand finals he played in.
3 prelims in a row.
Yeah.
And then 2008, 2009, 2002 and 2010. So he played 3 grand finals.
Yep.
3 grand finals and 3 prelims, I think, between, 2003 to 5?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 prelims in a row. So it's been a good career.
Yeah.
They didn't spend that long down at the bottom, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
They were traditionally the Wooden Spooners, so no, it's been a great career for him.
Yeah.
Now, I have my hero of the week. Now, this took some absolute stones. This guy's he's made out of iron. Mitch McGovern.
Yep.
Now, he took the mark, and then the siren went. And he needed to kick the goal to draw the match, and he stepped up and nailed it straight through the middle. So, I think I thought he was superb in that, and he did a fantastic job on that.
Yeah, I'd actually go the opposite direction with that one, and as good as it was, I'd actually say he's my villain of the week because I actually
for Collingwood not winning.
Yeah, that's right, for Collingwood not winning, because if Collingwood would have won, I think Nathan Buckley would have almost been safe. And I would have thought then he would have got another contract, and that would have been safe for the Collingwood fans.
Yeah, maybe we should actually amend that to Mitch McGovern being villain of the week.
Yeah, that's right. Just for all those Collingwood fans out there.
Yeah, I love your thought pattern there. Now let's have a chat about the Swans and the Hawks game. And look, this was one of those games when I was on the train on the way home, and I was sort of thinking, how am I going to do the match report? I was at the game. I was a bit filthy about how things went, and I know I wasn't the only one. And you jump on Big Footy, you jump on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and there's a lot of reasonably unhappy fans, and there's the whole, let's look at the positives, try and take the positives out of the match. And I sort of sat there scratching my head, and I go, what are the positives? And my lovely partner goes, well, we only lost by 6 points. And it's like, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. What's another one?
Yeah.
And she just sort of looks at me and shrugs, and it's like, I don't know. So actually, it has turned into a pretty bad one for us. Yes, again, 6 points, so very narrow loss.
Yeah.
But we came out of the match with 6 injuries.
That's right.
And not only that, but it's quite possible that all of those 6 players will be missing this week. So we've got Naismith, we got Sinclair, we got Mills, we got Lloyd, we got Rowan, and
Kennedy.
Who was the other
Kennedy.
one? Kennedy, of course. How could I forget? And his 200th match.
Yes.
So it's such a shame for him. And yeah, look, the match, we started off brightly again. The first couple of minutes, we looked superb. They didn't get a possession while we kicked 1-1, and then Burgoyne just did what Burgoyne does, and he just grabbed it on the back flank, dished it off, kept running, and then just ran past a flat-footed Melican and gold from 45.
Yep.
And to be honest, that kind of started the rot for that poor young fella. He had certainly had a game to forget on Friday night.
Yes, he certainly did, didn't he?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have been talking his praises and pumping him up, and from my podcasts and my blogs, I've been a bit more pessimistic. I've been a bit more hesitant to sort of blow up his tyres, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna write him off. But at the same time, I think maybe some of the praise has been a little bit too soon.
Yep.
Sort of going the early crow, but yeah, he had a shocker. And both Hawthorn games, he's actually had a couple of really bad games against them.
It's because of the style of play that they play. See, the week previously, when he played against St Kilda and he dominated Nick Riewoldt, which actually Nick Riewoldt actually said in his presser today was when he actually decided that the game was starting to pass him by, and he actually talked about the how the young boy of Melican actually towered him up, and he talked about that in his presser.
Yeah.
But
Hewitt even outmarked him as
that's
well.
right,
So.
yeah. But the issue for Melican is he was back to Lewis Melican, and he didn't actually play the game that he can play because of how Hawthorn dispose of the ball. They chip it around, but they hit targets so well.
Yeah.
Like, you look at it.
And I asked Ted last week, I asked him, do players get a little bit nervous at milestone games, and do they tend to try a little bit too hard instead of focusing on their roles and jobs? And he suggested that can happen, and it's just up to the players to try and do what they do, get back to what their jobs are, just focus on that, trust other players in the team. And there was a bit of that, some players trying too much, and then there was just unexplainable nerves in the backline. That entire backline, I know after Malikan got burnt on Burgoyne's goal, he kind of fell apart, but the whole backline just fell apart after that as well. We didn't concede a lot of goals, but the ball coming in and the ball going out was just shambolic. We couldn't clear it, and they just kept the pressure on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And realistically, our midfield was really, really poor. You look at Zach Jones.
Yeah, it was.
You look at Kennedy was down, Hanbury was down, Parker was down. When our midfield fails, our team fails. And it's the same.
I agree. And Zach Jones, he played a vital role earlier in the season as a sort of pinch-hitting midfielder, especially adding a bit more relief to that side when Robinson was in and out, and then Foote was playing. I can't even remember who some of the other debutants who were going through there. You also had Hewitt was playing almost 70% time in the midfield instead of playing a bit more forward. Papley was playing 60% in the midfield. And this is back before... we even had Parker and Hanbury at the team, in the side at that time. We had Kennedy in the side, but for some reason he was playing half the game in the forward line. He just didn't look fit. And look, Jones, who was a revelation earlier in the season, his form is a worry at the moment.
Yeah.
His kicking has been shockingly bad, and I can't really recall too many times he actually hit a target on Friday night, but even then, going back several weeks. And I know a lot of people have gone back and said, Heaney had a great game if he did this, if he did that. His kicking was shocking. It was... I struggle to remember one kick that actually hit a target from Heaney, and he had 10 of 25 possessions were kicks. And there was the two handballs that he had late in the game. There was one to Parker, which was pretty bad. It landed right in front of him, and then Parker couldn't gather it. And then there was another one that just went straight past the player.
Yeah.
After he did a nice move, grabbed the ball, made some room, pumped it out, just went straight past the player. I was just like, give us a break. Come on! Can't be that hard.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, I don't understand why our kicking efficiency, yes, I'm going back to it, why our kicking efficiency is so poor. But you're right. I look at Zach Jones, and people out in the football world are going to hate me for this as being a Swan supporter. But I actually don't think that if we lost him at the end of the year, and don't get me wrong, I'd like to keep him, but if we lost him, I don't think it'd be a major disaster, because he is another one.
Yeah, I can see.
Sorry?
I can see where you're coming from. I can see where you're coming
That's
from.
That's right. He's not a great kick. He's a hard and under footballer. He actually has like a lot of speed, but he just can't kick very well. And we have too many of those players in our team as it is.
He's a little bit like, he's a better Paul Bevan. There's no question there. like Paul Bevan used to be just as hard, just as crazy, but his skills were terrible. They were like some of the worst in the AFL at the time.
Yeah.
But I see in the side that we have enough players of a similar kind of style, and we still have to look at what's going to happen with Heaney and Mills next year, Lloyd as well.
Yep.
Hewitt's going to continue developing. Can Jones play a role? Absolutely, he can play a role. He is still in our best 22, but his form is at the moment on form. He's not in our best 22.
Yep.
I would seriously be looking at who can come in from the reserves, and I would probably rather have Marsh in at the time. And even his foot skills aren't great, but he can hit targets. And there was a couple of instances, and Heaney and Hanbury have been doing this all season, and I've hated it every single time they've done it. The inside to the centre kick, when they've gone from the flank into the middle and turned it over. They're doing it nearly once a match, and the Hawks got a goal from it, and almost every single time it happens, they concede a goal. Yeah, you're right. So I think there's a. I know you like to talk about kicking efficiency, but you got a point, and I agree. I've agreed with it every single time you've brought it up, and the side. I think it's a bit of a confidence issue with the side at the moment. I don't think it's work rate issue, confidence.
I agree with you.
Which is funny because they've won 7 on the trot and they'd won 10 from 11 games, so they should be full of confidence. But you just look at Franklin, whose kicking has been quite poor since the break or the bye. Jones as well. Jones for the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks. Mills for a lot of the season. He's up and unders. He's kind of channeling his inner Tom Mitchell best, which is not that great. So, the thing with
Mills is he's second year player. It happens frequently to second year players. So
yeah, it does. He'll get better. I guess maybe we're just so used to success and we're just so spoiled. We kind of look at these players and go, "Can't you do more? Can't you do better?" Look, the game on Friday night, it again exposed the Swans. As I wrote on Sunday, the Swans have found their kryptonite, and the kryptonite is that chip controlling game on the back line. And I think where Hawthorn got it right was they had 2 quick forwards and at least 2 or 3 quick defenders. They went a little bit undersized in defence, but they made sure they had speed. And it just caused all sorts of troubles for the Swans. And people were complaining about Callum Sinclair's game. When the ball's coming in the way it was coming in and the direction it was coming in, he ain't going to have no impact.
No, that's right.
You could put Tony Lockett in the forward line and he'd struggle to kick a goal.
I agree with you totally.
So I thought some of the criticism was a bit unwarranted. I was very disappointed that Lloyd was out because there goes our backline kicking. Our spread off the backline. And that forces someone like Jack or Hanbury or Parker to play that role. But they play different roles. They're better at their roles. They're not very good at that role. And it forces Newman and Jones to be that let-out kick and Rampy. And they're not that kind of player, right? Rampy's not the kind of player who's going to do a 15, 20-metre chiseler in board. He's the kind of player who's going to go 50 metres, 40 metres down the line or down the flank or across the field or something like that. So unfortunately, changes kind of shuffled, and I think it just threw the whole balance out. You could tell 10 minutes in, the balance was just out of whack.
I agree. On a positive note, I think there were 2 players that deserve some kudos, and that is Nick Newman and Tom Papley. I thought they played very, very well.
Yeah, I thought they did as well, and Papley's got his 3 goals, so not only is he racking it up and killing it, he's also getting goals.
That's right.
And Newman's definitely proved to be a very valuable addition this year, so I think he's been superb.
And
I thought McVeigh as well.
Yes, he was good.
He, even though he had a bit of a kiss and tell in the 3rd and 4th quarter, I thought he led that back line superbly, especially when the back line was really struggling.
I agree. And I'm just going on to the kiss and tell thing. I thought that was absolutely disgraceful by Langford.
Yeah, it was. It was. That was inappropriate. So I'm really glad that the AFL didn't even, well, the MRP didn't touch him on that one because, look, I just love the fact that he kicked it over his head, and then Langford, absolute drongo, just went back and kissed him again. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, what's your problem?
Yeah, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? It was like very strange.
How would you like your co-worker coming up to you going, hey Steve, give us a kiss.
Yeah, that's right.
Give us a big wet
On national television, mind
on
you.
national television, I'd be a bit creeped out.
Yeah, that's right.
So, it's a bit like, well, that was unexpected.
Yeah, that's right.
But, yeah, look, that was a disappointing game to lose. But, look, the weekend, as far as Swans go, wasn't too bad. It wasn't as good as it could be, but it wasn't too bad.
No, to keep Hawthorn to 72 points isn't a bad effort, really.
No, but Saints almost did us a favour.
Yeah, almost.
And, almost. Yeah, and North Melbourne did us a favour.
Yep.
I think top four is very difficult now. I don't think we're going to finish top four.
I'd be saying we are going to be lucky to make the 8, to be honest.
Yeah, it's looking that way, depending on how this weekend goes. Finishing in the 8 could be very difficult indeed because Essendon and Western Bulldogs are nipping.
Yep.
Eagles are nipping. We're all going to be equal on points, so we could potentially be 8th at the end of this round.
Yep.
And with the Crows still yet to play, it could be very, very difficult.
Yep.
But...
And not only that, have you seen Essendon's draw? They have like the easiest draw in the competition over the next 4 weeks. So
yeah, look, they should be winning. They should be winning 3 of those games. So
that's right.
But you never know. I thought they beat the Dogs, but they didn't play that well.
No.
I was watching the last quarter. They were down by 11 points with only 5 minutes to go. And I had to nick off down to the supermarket, and I've opened my phone about 4 minutes later, and they're down by 30. And I was just like, what's happened?
Yeah, that's right.
And this is in the last quarter. Just looking at the score. What on earth just happened then?
They just fell in a heap in the last little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And look, a lot of people are singing the praises of Johannesson, but come on, let's face it. When you don't have an opponent, anyone could be bloody brilliant.
Yep.
And for most of the game, he didn't have an opponent. He just hung back 20 metres off the back and just had the ball in a string.
Mm. And why was he playing up on the forward line? Oh, because he can't get a kick off the back line because he gets targeted every week. That's the only reason.
Yeah. So I think it's just a bit premature that people are sort of singing his praises and going, "Oh, he's back. Yeah. No, he's not back. He's been found out."
Mm.
Now, look, it's a bit of an interesting round coming up. Last weekend there was some really, really massive and important games. But this weekend in particular, this is a very important round for the top 8. We play the Cats.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants play the Demons. Essendon play Carlton. The Dogs play the Lions. North Melbourne, Collingwood, they don't matter. But for lols, I want North Melbourne. Well, who do you want to win, North Melbourne, Collingwood?
I would much prefer North Melbourne, personally, because I just don't like Collingwood.
But for Nathan Buckley?
Oh, yeah, that's a good... Oh, actually, yeah, that's a good point. For all of the Collingwood supporters that I hate, I hope Collingwood win this week.
So Nathan Buckley sticks around.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Fremantle Suns, that doesn't matter. They're not in the finals. St Kilda and Eagles. That's a big one.
That is a big one. I'm hoping Saints win.
Yep. That's going to be a tight one and a tough one. I reckon Saints should be winning this by 6-7 goals, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then we've got Richmond and Hawthorn, which is massive, and then Adelaide and Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, dropping last week on Friday night, it's kind of screwed up our chances for top 4 because all we needed was Port Adelaide to drop 1 game and we're in. Obviously, we still need to win those last 4 games, and they're pretty bloody hard 4 games. But yeah, it's just it really is quite disappointing that we actually dropped that.
Yeah.
So, which game are you most looking forward to, other than the Friday night game?
I actually think the game I'm looking forward to the most is our crosstown rivalry, and that's the Giants versus Melbourne. Because I'm worried about the Giants. I really am. They're not showing the potential. I know they've got a few injuries, but God, there's no structure. There's no game plan.
Yeah, look, I watched a little bit of their last game. They do look a bit of a mess. It's a bit too much on talent alone, and they have some very talented players, some very good players. But yeah, when things get a little bit hard for them, they kind of just go back to default, which is just try and outrun everyone and pray that someone's good enough in the forward line to take a one-on-one contested.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell you what, this has got to be probably the best Sunday of football of the season. Super Sunday.
I agree. Yeah, it's a massive weekend.
Every single game has massive ramifications. Saints, Eagles, who's in, who's out, Richmond, Hawthorn, and you're saying earlier that Hawthorn is still a mathematical possibility.
Yep.
Hey, they beat the Tigers. You never know what could happen. Crows and Port Adelaide top 4. Please, Crows win, and the Swans just win. If we want to stay top 4 or be there, we just need to get it.
I'll go as far as saying that if we don't win this weekend, we will struggle to make the 8 because I can't see us beating Adelaide in Adelaide at all. I think we can beat Geelong at Skilled, but beating Adelaide at Adelaide is going to be a tough ask. And then Carlton's already beaten us once this year, except I think they're tanking now. And
I don't include any of those games in anything.
No, that's right. But
that were terrible. Look, I'm going over to the Adelaide game, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't really want to go over there and see us get pants, but make a holiday of it all the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, our run home is it's an interesting one because we do have the Cats and we do have the Crows away, and they're not easy games. So I feel that if we can't beat Geelong, I think the wheels are just going to fall off.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to scrape. If we do get in the finals, we're scraping into 7th, 8th. We're not getting a home final.
Yep.
And can we do the damage? Yeah, we can do the damage. Can we go all the way? Yes, we can go all the way, but there's some big problems that the team needs to fix. You touch on it. It's the kicking efficiency. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Goal scoring is number one, like shooting on goals. That has to be fixed. And I think one of the things that people gloss over about the Hawks game, especially when they say, we only lost by 6 points, we should have lost that by 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah.
Especially the way that the Hawks kicked in that third quarter. They made an absolute meal of their kicking. So 2 behinds, 2 or 3 on the fulls. I think it was Burgoyne who hit the post halfway up after they kicked it on the full. So on the full, comes out, kicks it back into the post. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of the grand final. We just couldn't get out of the defence at all, and the whole system just fell to pieces.
Yeah. That's because they shut down our midfield. You shut down the Swans midfield, you shut down the team. And teams have worked it out. Like Robbo said that earlier. He said teams have worked out the Swans, and that's the concern. Is that they have actually worked out the plan.
I think, though, having Kennedy off the field injured didn't help. But then also, you don't have someone like Lloyd who's really good at picking those short passes and medium-range passes in the midfield. He doesn't do a lot of defensive work. He's not a great defensive runner, but he is very good at taking marks and dishing it off. You look at his stats per game, he's averaging like 8-10 marks a game, which is ridiculous for a midfielder.
Yeah.
You'd be happy with a forward getting 10 marks a game. So, it's he was a big loss, but Kennedy was an even bigger loss. But it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a very tough game against the Cats. What are your thoughts?
I think having Paddy Dangerfield out helps us. I think our injury list at the moment reminds me of, was it 2013 or 2015 when we went into the finals with lots and lots of injuries?
15. The one in Fremantle?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dean Towers was our forward after Reid went off in the first quarter after blowing up his hamstring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was also the one in, was it 2013 as well, with Adam Goods and...
Fremantle again.
Yeah, and I remember going over and watching the Swans play, I think it might have been Swans play North Melbourne at the ANZ Stadium in the finals, and I just thought, there's no way, don't even know why I went over.
That was 15, yeah, that was in 2015. Yeah. We got blown off the park then, but what did we have? We had Tippett playing ruck, but he was also our forward.
Yeah, that's right.
We had no forward line. We had Roos, Jack, I think, was playing. Yep. We had no forward line. I was watching that going, you know what? I know the Swans are going to lose. They can't win this. They've got no forward line. How are they going to score at all? And as it was, they didn't score.
Yeah. That's right.
So. And I think Russell Robertson said it perfectly earlier that when the Swans were at their best a few years back, they had so many different goal kickers and really good teams find ways to win, especially if they've got a good goal kicking spread. But at the moment, the Swans don't.
That's right.
They're maybe getting 6 to 8 different goal kickers a game, and basically it's like 6 or 7, including Franklin's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So we had, Reid and Franklin kicked 8 between them in round 2. And then there's been instances throughout the season where Franklin's combined with someone else to kick like 6, 7 or 8 of the team's 12, 13 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'd be averaging, probably 5 or 6 goal kickers per game, and that's not good enough.
No, it's not, especially when one of those players goes down. We haven't had Reid in, so we've lost that goal-kicking presence. We've brought Sinclair in, and he's a good contested mark.
Yep.
But, again, with the delivery that we had on Friday night, he couldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
He would have had to have been David Blaine just appearing on people's shoulders magically from nowhere to be able to do anything. Copperfield, kind of trickery and whatnot, but it was never going to happen. I mean, even if we had Russell Robertson in the forward line, I don't think his screamers would have been too good for us.
No, that's the problem, isn't it? It's just it's great to have people who can take contested marks. Sinclair, Tippett, whoever. It doesn't matter who it is. But if they're
you've got to kick it to where they are, exactly not like to 3 bloody opposition players.
Yep.
I just couldn't believe that time and time again. They're just going along to no one. Or they go along to Hewitt on Ruffhead or Papley on Brand or someone like that. And you're just like, come on. He's not going to mark the ball.
Yeah. That's right. I just don't get the whole thinking behind the Swans bomb it long attitude.
Yeah. I think with the loss and also the injuries, it's going to give us a bit of a reset. So we're going to see Tippett. I have no doubt whatsoever that we're going to see Tippett, and I would expect that Naismith is probably going to miss 2 matches. Yeah. His form's been a bit up and down. I know you don't go on Big Footy, but I did my comments about Naismith on Big Footy and also on Facebook, and I got a bit of mixed response from both.
Yeah.
And I know that the commentators and radio shows were all raving about Naismith after the match. McAvoy after the match, and I think it was SEN or Gazza from SEN had him as the best player on ground.
Yep.
For the Hawks, which I laughed hysterically at because that was completely wrong.
You reckon? I actually thought he was best on ground.
He only really got off the chain when Naismith and Sinclair were off the ground.
Yeah. But he dominated.
When you look at the first, yeah, but he had no impact in the first half. He was beaten by Naismith in the ruck. He was beaten comfortably, not only around the field but in the ruck as well. So
yeah.
And again, when Sinclair was with him, he was getting some possessions and getting some marks, but it wasn't like he was dominating. He only got off on the last quarter because he had no opponent. It's like Johannesson against the Bombers. When you've got no opponent, you can look like a superstar. So, McAvoy, 5 contested marks. Yeah, he got one against Hanbury. You got one against Hewitt. And you got one against Smith.
And he got one against Towers.
And you got one against Towers. Like, for crying out loud, if you're going to look at the contested marks, let's go like for like. And let's not talk about midget against giant.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was just like people are bragging about it. It's like, come on, guys, look at the game. Look who he had to play against. He had no opponent. He's going to look like a superstar. So, look, I worry this week because Tippett, in my opinion, whoever's in the ruck is going to get smashed by Smith.
Yep.
And I think it's just lucky that Dangerfield's out because I think the midfield's going to struggle without Kennedy. Because Parker's going to be forced to play inside, and everyone knows that's not his best position.
Yeah.
So Parker and Hanbury be forced to play inside. It might be insanity, but we might continue to see Robinson and Foote, and oh God, I hope not. What I want to see this week, I want to see Aaliyah, and I want to see Dawson, and I want to see Dawson come in and play the role Kennedy plays. I don't want him playing on the forward flank, getting his 6 possessions, looking like a mug, and people going, he doesn't look AFL standard. I want him in the middle, winning the ball like he does in the NEAFL.
Yeah.
Because he's killing it in the NEAFL. He's by far and away the league's best player. There is no one near him.
Mm-hmm.
And his last game, he had almost 200 Dream Team points, which was the best of anyone in the reserve leagues in Australia.
Yep, right.
And he's getting attention across the country. So, not only that, he's senior listed, so he can come in and play.
Yeah, I can't understand why they haven't put him in, to be honest. I would have put him in before Foote. I don't think Foote's much of a player.
Yeah, look, I thought, when they announced Foote, I was baffled. You had Aaliyah, and I was saying this to my partner on the way to the game. When Foote was announced, I was saying to her, I don't know what they're doing here. Aaliyah is the obvious choice. You bring him in to play as a forward. And as it was, they could have played him in the ruck, and they could have swung him back in defence.
Yeah.
So, and you got Rampy coming out after the game saying we got killed in the air. Well, 2020 hindsight, but I don't know. I don't know what you thought about it before the game. I thought, geez, Aaliyah should come in.
Was he emergency?
Yeah, Foote, Robinson, and Aaliyah were the travelling emergencies.
Right.
So, yeah, look, if you're not going to play him, don't even bother putting him on an emergency list.
Yeah.
Because the Foote's not a good player. I'm sorry, but it's not his level.
Yeah.
He tries hard, he works hard, he's just not AFL.
He looked terrible.
But,
he looked absolutely terrible on the weekend.
Well, he did something really nice in the third quarter. Won the ball off the back flank, dished a handball, got the receive, and then he's got a 20-metre kick up the line to, I think it was Hanbury was leading up the line, or maybe Jack or someone. And he's put in the pass, which has just sailed straight over their head by about 1.5 meters, straight into a Hawthorn player's arms. And it was just like, what are you doing? But
So he's another Zach Jones.
yeah, Zach Jones is doing exactly the same thing, so...
Yeah.
That we don't win, yeah. But look, matchups ahead of the Cats game. I think with Dangerfield being out, that's going to balance up Kennedy being out.
Mm-hmm.
And all we need to do is shut down Selwood. I don't rate the rest of their midfield really at all.
No, neither do I. Who do you think will take Selwood?
To be honest, I think they'll just play Parker head-to-head. Or maybe Hewitt will go to him.
Yep.
And just try and play head-to-head. I would be shocked if Kennedy played. But I would really like to see Dawson come in if Kennedy's not up. Because that'll let Parker go head-to-head with Selwood but still play his usual game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just put Dawson in to play that sort of inside mid and just let him do his thing. He's not going to, even if he plays, he's not going to have an amazing game, but even if he loses the contest, he'll still be able to let players around him do what they do best.
Yeah.
I worry about Melican in this game because
they got a massive forward line.
He's going to get not only that, but he's going to get Menzel, and I think Menzel on the lead is going to kill him.
Yep.
There's no question about that. And as soon as the ball hits the ground, he's going to kill him.
Yep.
Even after 4 knee operations, he's still going to kill him. So I would probably rather see Marsh or Ali come in for that one. And you've still got, when they've got their big, tall players go down there as well. So
Who's going to go Hawkins?
Grundy, of course. And Grundy's beaten him pretty much every single time they played. Grundy's got his measure by a mile.
Yep.
He really likes those kind of players. Big, strong, not particularly quick, not particularly athletic, but someone he can body up to.
Yeah, that's true. What about Harry Taylor?
So that's the other one. Because if they push their ruckman in defence, and then they push Taylor. So if they push their ruckman in forward line, like Smith, and then they push Taylor into the forward line, what then? Because they've still got Henderson and Lonergan and Mackie.
That's right. They've got a bloody fairly well-rounded side.
Yeah, it's not like they've got a short defence with Taylor in the forward line.
No.
So I think Malikan on Taylor's okay, but I think Rampy would be better suited. But they're pretty undersized in that contest. So Smith worries me.
Yep.
Stanley as well. So they can really exploit the height and physical strength.
Yeah. Do you reckon Smith might go to Menzel? Sacrifice the height to keep the speed?
No. There's no way that Smith is going to beat him in a marking contest. That's why I think it might be better off bringing Marsh in or Illyrian. But I think the club's going to stick with Malikan. Who knows? He might have an absolute blinder again.
Yeah.
And all faith is restored. But I just worry because they do have some quick players in there. They can rotate a few through there. So
yeah. See, people keep saying about Ali, but from the reserves games that I've watched, I just don't rate him. He's nowhere near as good a player as what he was last year. And
he's got his knee injury though.
That's right, and that's why would you bring him into the seniors to do that? Why would you name it as an emergency? Because he's not, winning every contest in the reserves, and he's playing against second-rate footballers there. So
he is playing a role though. So I think he's a bit in a way similar ilk to Reed in that he gives you a lot of flexibility. He can play 3 different positions.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even play him on the wing as a tall wingman, and you can use his vertical leaping ability, his athleticism, his marking ability, his kicking. To be honest, his marking, kicking, and hands are probably top 5 in the team in all categories, easily.
But his decision making,
his kicking. No, his decision making is okay. His defensive ability is non-existent. He didn't defend, and he was not a defender until he came to the Swans, and the Swans have tried to build him into a defender. He is substandard one-on-one defender. He's not a one-on-one defender. He's not even a defender to play on the lead. He's an intercept defender, much like Luke Hodge has been more so late in his career. Nick Maxwell, those type of players. He can play swing as well, so think like an Adam Hunter from the Eagles, who could swing backwards and forwards. He's that kind of player. He's not your bodied up player like a Malikan or Grundy is. Even a Rampy, for instance.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You remember his game against Tigers last year at the end of the season where he intercepted a mark and then dummied 2 players and then just hit a chisel up the wing to, I think it was Franklin on the lead who just wheeled around and went long.
Yeah, I do remember it. And I think like last year, when we actually look at it and go, well, was he the difference with the grand final? He probably was.
Yeah,
but
he was.
This year, when he came in, he just tried to do the same stuff and he just couldn't do it. He kept getting caught.
But he wasn't fit though. That's the thing. Like his knee was giving him issues. But from me, when I'm watching it, he didn't look fit. What did he look to you? Did he look fit to you when he played?
No, he didn't.
And Longmire came out and said afterwards that we shouldn't have played him. He just wasn't fit.
Mm. But now, why would you bring him in now when he's actually probably more hampered with injuries?
I don't think he's more hampered. He's certainly recovered. It's just flexibility. I think maybe they brought him as cover for a defender, but they made the wrong call. Bringing in a midfielder for a forward was not the right call. So I can understand the desire for an extra runner, but I mean, Rowan's not an extra runner. He's a forward, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a bit bizarre, but that's the decision they made, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's right. They've probably cost them.
Got your phone. Got your phone there, mate.
Sorry?
Got your phone ringing there.
Yeah, I did have, yes.
Now, let's wrap it up. We'll do our good call and bad call from the previous week.
Okay.
Now, Ted had his prediction.
Mm-hmm.
He had Eagles by 80.
Whoa.
Now, what did they win by? I think they, if I recall, they did punish them.
50? 56?
Yes. No, it was close to 80. It was carry that 68 points.
68.
Yeah, 68 points. We'll give him a big tick there. Ting! Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only one of the few ticks of the year. Close enough.
Yep.
Now, my predictions were awful. Swans by 4 goals. Bam, bam. St Kilda to beat Port Adelaide.
Bam,
So
bam.
close. Yeah, bam, bam. Collingwood to win. Bam, bam.
Bam, bam.
Now, Stephen had Buddy to kick 5 goals.
Bam, bam.
Bam, bam. And he was saying something about Ben Brown, but he got cut off. But bam, bam.
That Ben Brown played really well.
Now, he did actually have a good game. Was he kicked like 4 or 5 goals or something?
Yeah, 4 goals, 1.
4 goals, 1. Yeah, that's a pretty good effort from the big boy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can I get some predictions from you, mate?
You can. All right,
3 predictions.
My 3 predictions is going to be a long one. My first one is going to be this. Okay?
It's got to be about next round, not the whole rest of the season.
Oh, come on. Just give me this one. Just this one.
No. You do the rest of the season in the last round. Come on. This next season, let's go.
Okay, all right. This game, all right. Let me think. I think Melbourne to beat GWS.
Yep.
Lions to beat the Western Bulldogs.
Yep.
And Sydney, and you're not going to like this, Sydney to lose by less than a kick.
Now we're talking a point or a goal?
I'm going to say less than a goal.
Yep. Because if it was less than a point, it'd be a draw.
That's right.
Now, yeah. Now, I've been tipping something Swans related every week. I'm going to give up on that this week.
Yep.
Because it just hasn't worked. So, all right. So I reckon for Giants and Melbourne game, I'm going to go with Gorney to dominate.
Yep.
I reckon he's going to have 45 plus hitouts.
Yeah, well, that's about right.
And then, yep. Now I am gunning for a Hawks win.
Hawks.
They've got Richmond have got a few out. So they should be winning this one. And I reckon we're going to have a Port Adelaide shootout where both teams are over 120 points.
That's a good theory, that one. I agree with you. Okay, now can I do my end of the season prediction?
No, you got to wait for till the end of the season.
But this has got to be. Just give me this one. My prediction is this is the Coleman Medal. My prediction is Josh Kennedy will win it because it's based on the fact
the way Franklin's kicking at the moment.
Yeah, but not only that, based on the fact that it's such a topsy-turvy season and anyone can beat anyone, and I reckon any goal kicker can win it because He's missed 6 games, and he's already only 3 behind.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's that kind of player where they just go to him every single time.
Yeah, and he can mark, though. That's the problem.
That's very true. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on. I really enjoy it.
As always, guys, you can follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us with the tag The Swans Blog, and you can also send us your comments and questions during the week using the hashtag SwansCast. Until next time, have a good one and go Swans!